Yes, people, what is going on? Welcome back to another video on the channel. England finally through against the DR Congo. Oh, my Lord, Cameron, what was that performance? We've got the result, but, I mean, we needed every bit of luck we could.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the main thing, which you've said already, we got the result. That's the main thing. We're into the round of 16, albeit a tough side against Mexico in Mexico City, but we've done the job we need to do in 90 minutes as well, which is going to be very beneficial for us. But, I mean, we're going to hate talking about it like this, but the first quarter of the game, where Congo scored, England were awful. They were so bad. They offered nothing going forward. They looked tired. They looked like they thought that, you know, they were already through because, okay, we're just going to play Congo today. Like, that was the vibe I was getting. It was very frustrating to watch that first quarter. Second quarter, after the hydration break, I know I hate saying it already, that's because it's not talking about American football. We offered something more. We started to ask a few more questions. Madueke figured out he had a right foot and started to go down the line, which then gave him the opportunity to go back onto his left because the defender didn't know which way he was going to go now. Rashford didn't have the best game, but he still had a couple chances. But the main thing for me, Kane was not getting the service at all in that first half, and that was what was let England down a lot. Then we get to the second half, Kane was getting involved more, and then especially in that last quarter, he managed to have the chances. Gordon finally realised, if I pass to Kane, we might score. And he got himself 2 assists out of it. And 2 good finishes. I thought the Congo keeper in Passy was having a great game, and it was going to take, you know, a couple good chances to get past him. Kane's second was like, you know, the ultimate finish there. And then, you know, second half, England were much better. But there is still a lot more to improve if we want to make sure we go right to the end of this tournament.
I think the main thing for England in this game is the fact that, you know, you are right, we went through. That was the all important thing. But I think the biggest positive that England can take from the game is, yes, progressing, but actually you got through a very, very, very stubborn defence. You know, like, and to do it twice is, you know, it is a lovely feeling. And the thing that really showed, I think, about this England performance is the 2 goals that we scored. There was quality in both. And that quality was just not there throughout any point in the first half especially. I actually do want to slightly go against what you say about the first quarter when we went behind. We started that first bit of the game, the first 3, 4, 5 minutes. The intensity was there. It felt like something was different. And then, of course, it was just a calamity at the back with the back line not organising itself. And Jed Spence, who, you know, I think is a perfect way to say, look, Jed Spence does not even start at right back for Tottenham, who finished 17th in the Premier League. I think that's where you have a problem with his selection, if the fact that that is your second choice right back. I know Gerald Kwanzaa was there, but we can all agree that, you know, he's not a natural right back option for England. Obviously, of course, more of a centre back. When he went out there, it just all felt wrong last week. I know he was injured anyway. But the back line for England is so poor. That was what cost England the game for the large chunk, because of the fact it just did not switch on when it needed to. And that's the really worrying sign. But the quality that came from England to then go and get the 2 goals. And you are right, it's Anthony Gordon with both assists. When the ball goes over from Declan Rice for the first goal, it goes over across to just keep the ball alive. That's the sort of thing that there is a little bit of quality to just go, no, I can't pull the ball back here. Get it over, keep the ball moving. That's quality bit of number 1. You then got a bit of quality number 2. You've then got the ball in from Gordon. Waits, looks, and then lifts it. If you give it that flat trajectory, like a lot of the balls that England were putting in had, there was always a chance someone was going to clear it. But what Gordon did is he put it into an area where there was an awkwardness for the back line of Congo, DR Congo. This is the problem that England need to try and create more, is the fact that actually you haven't got to go and beat every single team with loads of quality and just blast everyone off the pitch. You just need to put balls into areas where actually mistakes can happen, especially against these stubborn defences. That is exactly what England needed, was that stubbornness to just disappear or be tested or to be challenged in a way that would benefit them. And when Gordon put that ball in, you could clearly see miscommunication between a couple of the centre halves about who was dealing with Harry Kane's run. It is a great run. That's a bit of quality. The header back across goal is a bit of quality. Maybe the goalkeeper should save it, but I think we've got to give credit where it's due. It's a bullet header that, I mean, a lot of goalkeepers in world football would struggle to keep out. You know, I know we're talking about the upper echelons of football because what we see more often, but this was the opponent that we were against. And then you look, of course, for the second goal. I mean, Harry Kane does it all by himself for that quality, and that quality was absolutely excellent. 63 miles an hour that left his boot and went into the back of the net. And the goalkeeper was just absolutely in no man's land because he was hit so hard and the quality was there. England did really well to break down DR Congo, but we just did not do it anywhere near enough. And even the chances that we did have that didn't go in, great run from Bellingham. You know, a couple of great runs from Bellingham, trying to get your head on it, trying to flick it on. That was what we loved seeing. But Cameron, my question to you regarding this game is, how could it have been any different? That's going to be my next thing, because obviously we now are going to move on in this tournament. We're going to have different opponents we're going to face. Of course, Mexico in the next round, and hopefully then afterwards the likes of Brazil, Norway, probably Argentina at some point. That's what our path is looking like. But what can England do differently in your eyes?
I think, for me, it's good that Bellingham is getting into the box and creating chances. However, when he gets forward, he doesn't get back as quick, which means when we're defending, it's just the six. Even if we can just get one more person in there, it allows Anderson to maybe support Spence playing right back, so he's got a bit more help with him instead of there being a lot of one-on-one situations. The same on the other side with Rice maybe supporting O'Reilly. So maybe we have a deeper midfielder just to help support in that defensive structure. I think you also, obviously the pace and the ball's in behind aren't working purely because there's no space for it in behind. I think we need to go for our more technical players like Saka, like Rodgers, like Eze, who need to start more and maybe use the creativity from them rather than just having the raw pace. Maybe have one of Rashford, Madueke or Gordon playing with more of the creative players. That's what I would like to see, just so that we have that bit more quality when we want to try and play the different ways or have those kind of options to play. Other than that, I think I wouldn't be against playing Rice at right back. He put in a good shift there. I thought he was really poor in midfield anyway. And then when he got to right back, he looked comfortable. He was strong. He could read the game better, which means we could allow, another creative midfielder in there or just someone else who could run. Like, I know people might not like it, but I wouldn't mind Jordan Henderson being in there purely for the leadership who can organise the team.
Oh, he's always going to throw the Liverpool hat in there. No, but I get what you mean. Yeah, I do understand. Because
you're probably not the only one who's going to moan at me for it, but I think, look, Henderson, he is older. He doesn't have as much quality in his right foot as what he used to, if he ever did. But purely from the organisational sense, purely from the work rate sense, I think it would be worth having him in there. If we don't want him, maybe Kobe Mino instead. Younger, bit more legs than him. Maybe not as much the organisation, but just that willingness to help out the defence that bit more. That's, I think, for me, what I'd like to see from England going forward, just to make sure they get to the later stages. It's not going to be the most pretty football. We haven't seen the most pretty football even under Southgate, but we have made it very far in international tournaments over the last 8 years.
The next question, Cameron, is, I think one of the main things for England when it comes to this game is, obviously a lot of people were very frustrated about how he's been defensively, and I think there's a lot of people talking about how lacking in quality our attacking options are. The thing I wanted to ask is, because obviously you brought up Gareth Southgate, I actually think England were more defensively sound against Southgate. And now I know obviously that was playing in a back five, back three, whatever you want to call it and such, but I just feel like there was more leadership in that team than there was anywhere else that we've currently got in this England setup. And I think that maybe a lot of people that were so heavily calling for attacking options and we need to go forward, and all the reasons why people didn't like Gareth Southgate, all the issues they had with him, Thomas Tuchel was trying to do all of them, but actually has left some big players at home, likes of Phil Foden, likes of Cole Palmer. Individual people have individual thoughts on those two and if they should have gone or not. But should Gareth Southgate's ideas and logic, and the fact that we're, you know, a little bit more defensive minded, I think that makes it us easier. Oh, it makes us harder to beat in these tournaments than we currently look like we are. Because I think against the bigger nations, the way that we're playing will be absolutely fine. And I think even the Croatia game showed that. But against these smaller nations and in some really frustrating ties, England just haven't really shown up defensively, which has made our attacking job 10 times harder.
Yeah, I think obviously conceding that early goal to Congo is, you know, always going to put you on the back foot anyway and chasing the game. What I do like about this team compared to Saudi, like this team is more balanced. I feel like you've got the options going forward. You have the option in midfield, and okay, the defense is a little bit more overrun. I mean, I've already said that I would like, you know, that bit more defensive minded midfielder, or just like a Henderson, just to help organise things, because I think that's where we were lacking a little bit in the team. But I think we've been unlucky with the injuries as well leading up to the tournament. You know, Reece James would be starting over Jed Spence, but is the risk-taking, injury-prone player into the tournament. Left-back wise, O'Reilly is fine, but again, we don't really have that backup option. I think you've mentioned already. If we brought Lewis Hall, that's another left-back ready to go, but we didn't bring him.
Luke Shaw was the other one
Think
should have got in, because I thought he played really well for Man United, especially in the second half of the season.
He did play well, but then you're also thinking, right, he's also another player who's, you know, been struck by injuries his whole career. So that's why I'm thinking, okay, if we brought Lewis Hall, maybe just that younger, a bit more, you know, energy to him to help out. Again, I think we're also missing Maguire in defence. You know, he's been, you know, the staple England centre-back for the last at least 8 years. So I think, you know, a new defensive line, which I think we mentioned in the previous video, is always going to be a problem because they don't know how to play with each other yet. So I think Konza and Gahey, maybe by the time the next World Cup comes along and they're still being good, they'll be the starting pairing for England, and they'll have more experience next to each other and be used to each other more, so they know how to defend. But then obviously the constant change in right back isn't helping. Obviously it's still a bit of a new midfield with Elliot Anderson in there as well, who I think is having a good tournament so far anyway. But then I think he just needs a bit more help from Rice when it comes to defending, and Bellingham even if he can get back a bit more. But I think this team is very much balanced. We could switch it up to the more defensive stuff and go counter-attacking football, which we can probably play really well with the players we have, against the likes of Brazil, potentially Argentina in the later rounds. But right now, I think we just need to focus more on the technical players in the team. So have Saka start over Madueke, just as one of them. Maybe start Eze or Rodgers out on the left-hand side instead of Gordon or Rashford, but then use that pace later on when teams get stretched and more tired.
I mean, because I was thinking about this. I think one thing I do want to mention as well, just sort of to round this off, because obviously we do have to go into the idea about the Mexico game, which is a huge fixture.
Yes.
But you look at Harry Kane, you think he's probably the best goal scorer in world football as of right now, you know, because I mean the finish was absolutely class. But I was thinking about Mbappe, who obviously is currently joint with Lionel Messi leading the Golden Boot race in this tournament. Of course, Messi with a game to go in this current match day. But Kylian Mbappe, all the goals that he scored have all been involving pace. Everything has involved pace. And I think that England need to find a way, because again, teams are sitting deep against France. Not as deep as, you know, what we've had to deal with, but they are sitting deeper against France because they don't want to get done. But Mbappe still finds ways to use his pace to get himself half a yard and then bangs it. And I just want to find a way for England players to get a similar idea, because I think Anthony Gordon, don't get me wrong, again, you could go and talk about other players as well, but particularly Anthony Gordon, I think the pace that he's got, if he can shift the ball inside, I've seen him do it before, just drill one at goal. I think all the shots that we take, everything's a bit safer. I think we sort of need to take that safety off, but that's a different thing for another time. That Mexico game, the one coming up now, that's a massive fixture, because the Estadio Azteca is one of the most sort of infamous fortresses of world football. The last time that Mexico lost there in a competitive game, correct me if I'm wrong, Karen, you might know the stat here, I'm pretty sure is 1986, 40 years ago when they last hosted the tournament. But with that being said, that's a great stat to throw it out there, fine. But who are they playing in competitive games if they're not at a World Cup? because you're playing against the United States, you're playing against Canada, you're playing against all of the other Central American countries and the Caribbean. It's not that big of a stat, I don't think. And I think, again, the fact that the last time they got beaten at home in the Stadio Azteca was in a World Cup means we can go and beat them in a World Cup.
I mean, logic says, I think...
You get my point, didn't you?
I do. I think the stats I saw is that in their last 60-odd home games over the last 10 years or so, they've only lost twice. I think that was against... The last one was against Honduras, I think it was. But that was still a good couple of years ago now. But still, having that record at home is very good. Okay, we're talking about the quality of people they've played against, which is something. And obviously, like, a lot of things the media have been saying right now is like, okay, we have to go to Mexico at the Azteca. Like, how are England going to cope with it? How are England going to cope with the atmosphere? How are England going to cope
the altitude with the heat? is the big thing that everyone talks about.
However, I liked what Roy Keane said after. And it's like, you don't think the Mexico players are going to be worried about England and Harry Kane and like the quality that we have? Like, that is the complete flip. And it's not just this tournament, it's pretty much all the tournaments I've seen England play. The media love to be like, oh, how will England cope with this? It's never like,
how is the other team going to cope with England?
It's always the negative side of it. So I like that Roy Keane brought that up on ITV after the game yesterday, because it's like, no, hang on. Mexico have to play against Harry Kane, a striker who's only second to Lionel Messi in calendar goals over the last 20, 30 years. He's beaten Ronaldo's record, like the amount of goals he scored ever in a season, which is insane to think about, considering how good Ronaldo is. And
it's nuts.
You've also got to think about how experienced this England team is now in tournaments. They've reached 2 finals. They reached the quarterfinals of the last World Cup, the semi-final of the one before. They've been here before. Mexico, this is only the first time they've won a knockout game in the last 8 attempts. And they're still only in the round of 16, which they've never gotten past in those attempts in the old format. So you've also got to think about the flip side of it. It's like, yes, okay, it will be a tough game in Mexico City, but this is an England team who are, ranked 4th in the world, who have the hottest striker in the world of football, maybe bar Mbappe and Haaland. The rest of the team, you've got Jude Bellingham, who is still very young, but also one of the world's elite midfielders. You've got a very reliable England goalkeeper in Jordan Pickford. You've got a very good centre-half duo of Konza, who's just won the Europa League with Villa. And you've also got Gahey, who's just won competition with Palace, FA Cup Community Shield, and then gone on to win other trophies with Manchester City in the same year. You've got to think about all these other... You've got Elliot Anderson, who's just moved to Man City for a reported 120 million. You've got Declan Rice, who's just won the Premier League. You've got Gordon, who's just
there's
signed...
Quality. There's quality
all over. If you break it down player by player, the Mexico players, when they get to it, when they're in the tunnel, it's like, I have to mark him for 90 minutes. I have to deal with him for 90 minutes. And then that confidence can slowly disappear in the first 5 minutes, depending on England play and how they set the mood in Mexico City. Conceding early, like they did against Congo, is not something they want to do. If they concede early against Mexico this time, it will be a lot harder for England to recover. However, that Congo win was the first time since the 1966 final where they went behind the World Cup game and won.
That's a great stat. I didn't know that, but I mean,
but
that's the sort of thing that England need to go and carry through. That is the sort of thing that England need to go and realise that is a big thing that the nation has not done, and this team is the one that has done it. You've got to push on from that.
But even then, you're looking at the last 8 years. We now know how to win penalty shootouts in World Cups. We now know how to get to the later stages in World Cups. We know how to grind out results against bigger teams in World Cup to get to the next round. This will be no different. And again, like the Mexican players and supporters, they're confident now. They're confident, yes, we're in Mexico. Yes, we can beat anyone. Yes, we haven't conceded a goal all tournament. But once that first whistle is blown and the game's kicked off, they will be very uncomfortable for those 90 minutes.
And you are completely right there. This is Mexico, who haven't conceded a goal in 90 minutes of a World Cup yet. They haven't played Harry Kane.
No, they haven't played Harry Kane again.
No, they
Who's
haven't
the
played
world's
Harry Kane.
hottest striker right now, and who
And
really,
Raul Jimenez, you go on.
who and really, when you think about it, is probably one of the front runners for the Ballon d'Or.
For me, I think he is a Ballon d'Or winner. I mean, obviously, I think it goes to the individual prizes. If England win the World Cup, it's a shoo-in.
Yeah,
But
100%.
I mean, I think I think he's in that front runner conversation massively for them. But yeah, just sort of round off this section. I mean, England need to go to the Estadio Azteca and go and get a massive result, which I think will still be a tough task. I do, because I think that, again, the atmosphere and the altitude, I think it is going to be a tough experience. But this is where you want to see your England team really push on and actually make it, into the latter rounds of a tournament. And I think that there's a real expectation now from the country. It's like, look, you've got out of jail free twice, I would probably say, in the last 2 games, particularly in this one. And it was not a good England performance, I don't think, that much. Created some good chances, which will give credit where it's due. But England definitely needed to do more. And I think that now this game is the opportunity where actually, if things go differently, I mean, you heard the Mexican fans I can't remember where it was. It was another stadium that they weren't playing at. But you could hear Mexican fans that were booing the fact, I think it might have been South Africa and Canada maybe, they were booing the fact that South Africa weren't coming forward. They will expect their team to push and progress the ball up the pitch, not the same way that DR Congo and Panama have done in the last couple of games. They are going to absolutely want to go, and the nation will be behind them to go toe-to-toe with England. And if they do that, I think they will probably come up short. I think if they're tactically sound, I think that they'll be okay, and I think they're going to keep it close. But I think if they come out too much against England, I feel like we could be able to go and get in behind, get ahead, and use that pace that we were on about before. But it's going to be a very, very difficult game in very, very difficult circumstances, and not one that I want to get ahead of myself on at all. Still got to go and beat this Mexico team, but I think that a lot of people are massively over-appreciating how good Mexico are. I think that England have got 10 times more quality than they have. The circumstances are going to be what keeps Mexico in the game. But I think if England can get around that, we'll be absolutely fine. Cameron, thank you very much for joining me. Obviously, we did have a little bit of technical issues in the middle of it, so apologies if it is a bit distorted for people. But we'll be back with loads more World Cup content in the next coming days. Make sure you take care, stay safe, and subscribe to all of our channels to check out all of our content.